Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast and YouTube channel. I'm really excited about this interview because it's not only somebody who is a mover and shaker and helping people break free from the crazy world of the W-2. He's breaking the chains of that and getting people into, being their own kind of business owner or just creating their own lifestyle, the thing they want. He does this. He helps that. He's in real estate as well, something I love. He's also a client of ours and has really done some amazing stuff just with his policy to allow him to do the things that he's doing now. So I am super excited to have you guys know and hear from a practitioner who's practicing all the stuff he talks about. So Brian O'Neill is an experienced real estate investor. You don't want to just have someone who says I'm a real estate investor and not actually have done anything, right? So he's an experienced one. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a coach. He has his own podcast as well. And he specializes in creative financing and strategies for purchasing properties, offering flexible solutions for both buyers and sellers. Now, you might see why I like him a lot is because creative financing is something that I think about all the time with what we do as business owners and as infinite banking. But he uses 25 years of his phone experience to solve sellers' challenges and help them move on. So he wrote a book. He's done a lot on the topic, how to master the phone in 90 days. So I have a lot more that I can share, but I'm going to just bring him in. His main coaching group is W-2 Prison Break. This is, again, an amazing thing to be a part of. So thanks for being here, guys. And here is Brian.
Hey, Brandon, how you doing? Thanks for that awesome introduction. Happy to be here. Great to see you, and look forward to chatting with you today and your listeners.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Brian. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold, but I was really excited to have you here, not only because we've worked together for many years, but because you live and breathe real estate. You are wanting to help as many people have the life they want. And I've seen you evolve, right, over the course of even a couple years. And so tell us a little bit, take us back. Your website is W2 Prison Break.
W2prisonbreak.com. Yes, sir.
W2prisonbreak.com. You're in real estate. You're in this W2 Prison Break thing. You were as a W2. So take us back in your W2 world. And why did you break out?
Why and how? Well, the why is easy. The how part was difficult. So, as you had mentioned in the introduction, there, I did what most people do in this country is, I drank the Kool-Aid. Go get a good education, son. Go to college so you can get a good job, and plow all your money into the stock market blindly. I'm being facetious there, but that's pretty much what you're doing. And hopefully one day, you'll move up the corporate ladder and you'll retire. You retire at 65 and have enough money to live. I mean, I drank that Kool-Aid. It was fed to me my whole life. No fault of my parents, but that's what they were fed too. And that sounded like a good plan to me. And that's what I did. And I jumped right into the corporate world after college, and I got a job with Enterprise Rent-A-Car because they had a great management training program, right? And they did. I mean, it really helped jumpstart my sales career, and that's where I ended up. I ended up being in sales because I was good with people. I could talk to people. That was my skill, and I liked it. I liked sales. Yeah. I always knew that there was something better for me, but again, I just really didn't realize that I was stuck in this prison, if you will. Sometimes we don't know that we're there. It's just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is my download, right, for my whole life. And as I got older, a few things started to happen. I realized that, as a salesperson, my income was going to plateau. Like, there was only so much money I could make in a specific job. I was with the same company for 17 years. And I said, okay, if I have to make more money, I have to climb up the corporate ladder, which meant, I'm going to give up some of my lifestyle and my freedom that salespeople enjoy. And I didn't really want to do that. And then I was gone a lot too. I was traveling a lot, 100,000 miles a year. My son was growing up. I was missing him grow up. I talk about this all the time, and that's my why. He started to tell me, "Hey, Dad, I don't like it when you leave the house. I'm scared to be here at the house with Mom." And that's ultimately what pushed me over the edge to get over the fears I was having around wanting to start my own business and take control of my situation, which is exactly what I did. And he motivated me to do that.
Yeah.
And so I started a real estate business several years ago, and that became successful. And then I'm still in the real estate business. I'm still heavily involved, and I have a team now. So I've built that business. So I have people helping me with the business to scale it. And I've really discovered that my passion is to try to help people who were like me,
Yeah.
have similar stories. Like, hey, I'm in this situation. I know there's something better for me. I really don't know how to get out. Right? I'm scared, or I don't have all the answers. My mind's not in the right place, and that's what W-2 Prison Break is all about. Is helping people get to the right place in their life to be able to make that leap, because it's not easy. It took me decades to do it. And once I made a few tweaks, made a few changes, I was able to really accelerate that. I left my job 9 months after I started my real estate business.
And I probably met you a couple, maybe like 9 months or so after, right? Yeah, how easy was that to make that transition? Like moving from the W-2 to you're responsible for everything. You might be home, but you didn't have that income, regular income.
Yeah, I would say that it was scary. It really was. Even when I got to the point where I knew that financially things were okay and looked good, it was still like, hey, I've been getting this steady paycheck for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like rain or shine, I get it, and I have health insurance. Like everyone talks about health benefits, and I laugh at it now because, there's plenty of opportunities to get health insurance here, especially for self-employed people.
Yeah.
And, that should never be a reason for you to stay in a job that you don't like.
Right.
Is benefits. Like I'm telling, like anybody listening to that, like that is the wrong reason. The job that you're in is the risk, not the risk of losing benefits or 401k. Like you are expendable. You can be let go at the drop of a dime, and you have no control over it. And when I realized that, Brandon, that's when I started to say, okay, look, I got to take control of my life, because at my age, if that happens to me, no one's going to hire me and pay me what I was earning. So I have to make my own way. And that was the mindset shift for me. And then to execute leaving, it was a few things. I mean, most of us are worried about money.
Yep.
So I covered that part. We got to a position where we said, look, I don't have to take a dime out of the business for 12 months. I felt comfortable with that, and now I know how to make money, right? So I have another way to make money, and no one can ever take that away from me again. So I don't ever have to go back to the W-2 job, because I've learned this skill. And if something goes bad, I know how to do it. I know how to make money again. So I don't ever worry about having to go back and get a job. I already know how to make money.
Yeah. Well, and I think early in you had some credit card debts and some things like that, right? But you broke your 401k out of prison too, and there was somewhat of a cost for that, but you were able to build into freedom because of somewhat putting our money into 401ks is like putting it in prison, right? But you took that, what they call penalty, to build freedom. Now, some people would say, yeah, but my company matches 4%. This is great. I get that free money. What would you tell somebody as they are, maybe thinking about doing entrepreneurship, putting money into a 401k, they're in that world, or kind of in between? How would you kind of coach them?
My thought on 401ks is this, okay? If you really look at what a 401k is and look at the rules around it, right? They tell you how much money you're allowed to put in, so they cap it. That's great to have a match. Wonderful, awesome. Okay, that's a good part of it. Free money, whatever you want to refer to it, but they cap the amount you can put in. They tell you what you can invest in. Like they have a list of investments that you have, and it's confusing. If you don't have a financial advisor, you're just going blind. You're going off what the Wall Street guys are recommending, which is bad news. And then when you retire, you can't take it out until a certain age.
Yep.
and you got to pay tax on it. And then they force you to take it out after a certain age. So I don't see how that's a benefit really to anyone. You don't have any control over it.
Yeah.
I got to the point where now I didn't take any penalties because COVID helped out. So there were some
Oh
COVID
yeah.
rules that allowed me to take the money out, but I still would have paid the penalty if I had to. I took control of the money. I put it into a self-directed account and I can invest in whatever I want. And I
Mhm.
have control of my money. I don't give it blindly to the Wall Street folks.
Yeah.
I can loan it. I can loan it to people. I can invest it in real estate. I can buy real estate. I know what I'm actually buying. I have control over it versus, oh, here's a couple $100,000. I hope the stock market continues to go up. Well, if anybody's watching the news right now, the stock market's going in the opposite direction. But again, I was fed that Kool-Aid, Brandon, so I drank it. Now I don't.
Yeah. I think that's the hard part is we want to have freedom. We want to have our own destinies, but yet we're told to go get a job and then there's the 401k match or all this other stuff. And I think that the whole like Wall Street thing is actually a system to keep us in bondage and grow big business and not our own lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
And I think that that is by design. There's also a guy, his name is Donald Miller, and he says, if you confuse, you lose. And in the financial world, there's a lot of confusion. And in taxes, it's very confusing. And I think that there's like a lot of confusion happening and people are losing. And so you want to help people do real estate or break out of the W-2. What is one of the things that you tell somebody if maybe they worked for the man
Mm-hmm.
uh, for a while? It's really hard when I say it, because I'm like, I was at a men's group a while back. They talked about money and they said all the things you need to do. I was like, all right, I don't give a company match because I'm the company, right? It just
Right.
doesn't make sense. And they're like, yeah, I get all this benefits, but I realized, oh, I am the man, you know, in that, right? And I have staff now. So how do you help somebody go from W-2 to maybe self-employed or into the investor world?
That's a great question. And, I would say the first advice I would ever give anyone is you need to evaluate if you're thinking about changing your career or starting a business, you need to evaluate the situation that you're in right now. You need to evaluate yourself right now because I think a lot of people are either forced into entrepreneurship because they just hate their job and they quit and they can't stand it anymore, or maybe they got fired or whatever the situation is and they're not ready. Like,
Yeah.
look, being a business owner is not easy.
Oh yeah, but people say it's easy.
Yeah.
I've realized as I do it, man, I got staff. Like, if I don't bring in this money, they don't get paid either. So it is hard. So you let them know it's not as Instagram lifestyle as people say. You're not going to just have that, you know, great big car or anything right away. How do you
No,
help them see that?
that's a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, they're selling stuff on Instagram and that's okay. But I just want people to understand that, you need to figure out what makes you tick, right? What makes you happy, like what's your passion in life. I have a firm belief, and it's one of the reasons I started W2 Prison Break was you can design a business around your passion. Now, is it going to replace your income? I don't know. It just depends on what you want to do. But if you learn other ways to make money and use some great financial tools like the policies that you and your wife offer, and some of the other methods of eliminating debt that are out there, and some of the creative ways that you can buy real estate that we might talk about. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to get yourself into a position where your expenses are covered, and then you can go chase your passion.
Yeah.
And you need to identify what that is first and foremost. But it's really all about being happy now. Tell everyone, like, if you're miserable now, changing like your job or getting a dog or, even changing your spouse isn't going to make you happier if you can't learn to be happy right now. You
Yeah.
have to, you have to be comfortable. You have to find a way to be grateful for what you have in your life
Yeah.
right now. Otherwise, it doesn't make any difference how many Ferraris or houses or whatever you have later. You're still going to be miserable. So you got to start within first, and then you can kind of build on that. And that's really what I focus on is just evaluating where you are right now, and hey, let's build on that.
I think that's again, as I think about our podcast name, Wealth, Wisdom, Financial.
Hmm.
Wealth is more than money. And I say this all the time, and why we put wealth there is it's being around your kid when they're growing up, right? That's a wealth thing. Having a healthy marriage, right? All of those things may not be monetary, but it's a huge degree of wealth. And most people, as I do like financial analysis, or probably you do coaching,
Hmm.
right? Most people don't even ask those questions of themselves or their spouse of what are your goals? What do you want to accomplish? And they might say, I want 20 houses. Well, why? What's the point? So, what is the why? And how do you start moving towards that now as opposed to 20 years from now?
The why is the most important thing. And if you don't have a strong why, most business owners are just they're gonna flame out, because if you're just doing it to chase money, it's a wrong reason. I mean, yeah, we all want to make money, so me too, right?
Yeah.
But there's a reason. There's a reason why I do what I do. And there's things that get me to the desk in the morning, and it's never, hey, I've got to earn this amount of money, or I'm just going to be unhappy. It's like, hey, I don't want to go back to the job anymore. I don't want to be away from my kid. I don't want to miss him growing up. I only got one shot, right? And
Yeah.
then what ends up happening too, at least for me, is I just feel drawn to, like, this has become my purpose. I'm a voice for people. Like, hey, I'm approaching 50 years old, right? It's never too late.
Yeah.
And I spent a long time in my W-2 job. And there's a lot of folks who feel stuck and won't ever try to break out of it because of whether their age, or maybe they heard my story like, hey, no one's ever going to pay me this much money. Well, there's ways for you to get out of that. You
Yeah.
just have to evaluate it and take the time, and your whole life can get better. It's just a matter of, you have to start and you have to look within first. Most people look at their situations, right? Like, if this was different, my life would be better. No, it all starts with you. You got to look yourself in the mirror. That's hard for most people to do, especially men,
Hmm.
because we're not wired that way, right? We're stubborn.
I think it's take 100% responsibility for everything. So you got to know your why and
Mm-hmm.
why you want to go into it and be responsible for everything, right? And knowing, like, even when it comes to sales, some of my mentors, which Mark Willis, this guy is a machine, right? He is literally on podcasts all the time. He is making phone calls all the time. And we will look and say, wow, look at what they've done. They're just lucky. Well, no, maybe some luck happened, but they're at the plate more often. So that's something I think about with you, and seeing, even as I've watched you from afar, I'm like, man, he's actually getting out there doing stuff. You wrote a book about making phone calls, and most of where the money is made is in the follow up. I bet you, right? That's probably a key in your book? I bet you.
Develops everything. And my book, the book that I wrote on it, and if you go to don'tfearthephone.com, you can get a free copy of it. It's geared towards talking to sellers, but you can really apply the principles to anything, especially if you're in sales and you talk to people, in terms of how to master the phone. That's what it is. It's master the phone in 90 days, and follow up's everything.
Yeah.
So a person who says no now, that's not ready, 2 weeks go by and they're a completely different situation. A year goes by, it could be a completely different situation. When I was in sales, some of the deals that I got, because I sold elevators, nothing to do with real estate, I
Yeah.
worked on it for 10 years. So I was following up with people for 10 years. Now, that's a long time, but I got the deal, and these are high ticket sales that I'm talking about here. So, that's the key. When we're talking to people on the phone, and even sellers, right? Especially with real estate, I take a seller from the day they start trying to sell their house to the day that they're done or they quit, right? They either sold it or they stopped selling. So it's crucial to be there and be in front of them.
Yeah, and I think, again, we are taught in our world that, oh, if it doesn't come easy, then go ahead and do something else.
Yeah.
And no one wants to get rejected. But again, for me, is just saying, okay, follow up. I've had people say, I'm going to work with you. I'm not ready yet, but I'm going to work with you because you've followed up with me. Email, maybe sending them something in the mail, different things like that, to then help. And I don't want to be a salesperson. I want to be an educator. I want to be able to educate, to help people have the freedom that, I mean, like for me, I look and say, when I work with Brian, he's able to do more because he worked with me, right? Those things are of key value. And sometimes we get in our own way, right?
Yeah.
We do that all the time. I know that happens to me. And I can't be mad because they went got in their own way. They have their own demons and things like that. So
Hmm.
how do you stay positive whenever you're doing a deal? You know it's going to save them. You know it's going to help them, and it just doesn't go the way you want.
Yeah. So that happens all the time, right? And that's going to happen in life, period. Not just real estate, not just in your business, it's going to happen, period, all the time. And one of the biggest lessons I've learned over the last several years is you focus on what you can control. Period.
Yeah,
End of story. You can't control what people are going to do. You can only control what you're going to do and your reaction to said situation. So in my business, when I'm talking to sellers who are, it looks like maybe they're even going to sign a contract, and it's mostly my team now that does this, but we make sure that we always have a lot of people to talk to because they're going to change their mind. They're
yeah,
going to, or they might even sign the agreement and back out. It's like you always have to have people to speak to and make sure that your funnel is full and you have lots of folks to talk to. That's any business. That's like, sales 101. You have to make sure that you have a bunch of people to talk to, and rejection is part of the game and you can't take it personally,
yeah,
and you just need to focus on controlling the way that you react.
yeah. I think that's why my mentor is so successful. He is on tons of podcasts. He is just out there doing all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, man, I don't have a voice, right? For me, I've been in my own way saying, oh, I can't do this. I'm
Yep.
not that great as my wife, who's more articulate or things like that. And it's just been more recent that I'm like, oh, no, I'm actually good at this. I actually know what I'm talking about. And that's part of even our branding. When we started our business, we started at Grandma's Wealth Wisdom, and that's our business name. But we've evolved because we were like, well, no, we are pretty awesome. And that's why you see pictures of us as opposed to that other picture, because we're like, no, actually, we do know what we're talking about. But it took some time.
You are
Um,
both awesome, by the way, and
oh,
your picture should be up there. And you've helped me tremendously. And you guys were on my show and dropped some great knowledge. My old show, and Mark, you keep mentioning him. Mark Willis is on the new show, the W2 Prison Break show, and he was just, sometimes I have to tell him to slow down. It's like, hey man, you're speaking language I don't understand. But
yeah,
I mean, what you guys are doing is something that is not widely known, in my opinion. I had no idea that these policies existed a few years ago, and they've been life changing for me and my family, and the flexibility of them. And I've been telling everybody I know about them because, again, I think it's kept from the public. So I really do. It's something everyone needs to learn about, because if you're looking at leaving a job or scaling your business, even if you're a business owner, I mean, this is something that you have to incorporate
yeah.
into your arsenal, if you will.
Well, and that again, I'm going to talk to you about this whole creative financing.
Mm-hmm.
Right, we're working on buying a building for our office. We haven't really told anybody publicly, but now you guys know that this is a move that we're working on. And talk to a banker who's been a banker for 27 years. He said he's really scared of what's happening in the market right now because he's like 56 and he's worked as a W-2 guy for a long time. I told him what I do and how I plan to buy the building, at least partially.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, wow, that is really smart. That is amazing. That is super creative. And I'm like, well, I'm just doing the math and figuring out what works for us. And I realized, all right, a banker who has no idea, like he services banks and helps them make a lot of money, right? And I told them, don't do what the banks tell you to do what the banks do. This is a mantra that I think about a lot. And knowing how much cost it is when you have a mortgage or different things. There's a lot of pieces in there that I'm just learning more and more. So as you think about creative financing, and you actually have a master class on it. So talk to us a little bit about creative financing for real estate, because everybody wants to do real estate, I feel like now.
I'll preface this with, what you opened up with, which was fear. Your banker friend is scared. And I can tell you that, and this has happened throughout history, when people are fearful of a situation, they panic, and that's opportunity. So when the news is out there, which I don't watch, by the way,
Yep.
is out there spreading fear, and the world is ending,
Yep.
that spells opportunity.
Yep.
And one of the opportunities that I think everybody needs to have an understanding of is creative financing. Basically, buying properties. It's not just a single family house. This is the building that you're looking at. You can do this on anything as long as the seller is open to it. So when we talk about creative financing, we're talking about buying on seller financing terms, okay, with no banks. And the general premise of it is that you, as the seller of a property, have the opportunity to finance a buyer. When someone goes and gets a bank loan to pay off another bank loan, who are the people who make money during that transaction?
Definitely not you. It's usually the banks.
The banks make the money, and the realtors, all the people that you have to hire to sell your house. You don't make the money as the seller.
Yep.
If you look at a truth in lending statement, if you ever look at that page on your mortgage, if you buy a house for 400 grand, 30 years amortized over, 4 or 5%, you're going to pay double for that house over 30 years.
Yep.
Okay. That's why the banks are on every corner. Okay. Because they do that. So look at your house in that way, or your property in that way, where you can do the same thing to somebody else. You can finance somebody else.
Yep.
And it's a skill that everyone needs to learn, especially business owners, because you can, let's say you have a policy, right? You can use that as a down payment. Yep. If the seller even requires a down payment. I bought houses with zero money down, no money down, no banks. I've done it multiple times. And you might be thinking, why would anybody do that? It's because I'm solving a problem. I'm not selling them on anything. I'm not convincing them. I'm solving a specific issue that they have, whether it's, they couldn't get the price they wanted. They were behind on their mortgage. They're underwater. They're behind on their taxes. They're divorced. They relocated. Not every house sells. Again, you turn the news on, every house is selling in 5 minutes. Not the case. Okay. I've collected my own data over the last several years, and I can tell you there are people with real problems that the conventional market, the traditional market will not solve. And those are folks that you can help.
And I think that what you do in this future market that's coming, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunity and a lot of people that are freaking out. They've maybe overbought. They've done a lot of things that they are the consequences of the actions that they chose, right? And you're just trying to help them out. And sometimes, again, we get in our own way and we're like, yeah, but this, and this. And I'm like, well, you're not them. This is what you did. How do we overcome it? And I just love thinking creatively, right? As I'm in real estate groups and things like that, I think about my policy and having capital access to cash that I could use. There's a lot of money that's going to be made, right? When you have some form of liquidity, not just locked in the market. Where do you see some of this going? Like, as you are in kind of as your pulse on real estate, where do you see, and I'm not going to hold you to this.
Sure.
There's no crystal ball. None of us know. But yeah, if you were to think through it.
Yeah, none of us know. And I'm glad you put that disclaimer in there. So, we just continually as a team, we're just collecting the data and adjusting our approach as necessary. But there's a few things that I'm finding right now, okay? As interest rates have increased, okay, I'll give you a stat. This is a fact. Any of you who know a mortgage broker, a loan originator, ask them this question. How many applications out of 10 get approved? And I can tell you, I've asked multiple mortgage lenders this, and about 90 days ago, it was about 2 in 10, which is already bad. 2 out of 10, 20% get approved for a loan, which basically means that about 20 to 25%, depending on what market you're in, of the of the market can qualify for a loan right now. The other 75 to 80% can't.
Yep.
Now rates ticked up, doubled essentially. Now it's 2 and 20. So now it's 10%. So wow. What's happening is that the sellers that we're talking to, and again, I keep talking about the news. The news doesn't talk to the people I talk to. All right. They don't share that story. It doesn't sell. buyers are falling through because they can't get qualified. They were already on the cusp of getting qualified, and now their payment goes up $400 a month on a $400,000 house. They're out. They can't qualify.
Yep.
So what ends up happening in that situation is that puts downward pressure on prices. So the prices are coming down. So the equity is getting eaten up. And if you bought at the height of the market last year and you have an issue like you got divorced or you have to move for job relocation, there's a death in your family, whatever the situation is, you might be in a situation where either you can't sell your house or you're going to have to come out of pocket at the closing table, especially if you took like a low down payment loan.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing is houses are sitting on the market longer because of the rates. And that's ultimately, again, in my opinion, going to disrupt things in terms of you're either going to have people who are going to just stay put and not sell,
Yep.
or they're going to lower their price. That's what I see happening.
Well, and again, thinking about rates for me and us thinking about buying a building right now, and some people might say it's crazy or not. It's more of a cash flow for the business reason. But I love being able to do the math and say, what do I want my interest rates to be? And that's a different question than it's 6.5 or 5.5 or whatever it is. I can kind of make it through, and I'm again reverse engineer my cash flow to see what I want to do. Or where I'm doing business, like there's a difference between personal residence, right? And then if you're doing it for commercial, right? The loans are very different. I'm learning, and I'm like, I want a 30-year mortgage. That would be maybe,
Yeah.
right? But it's just interesting how many products, how many banks are out there that we don't even know of that are sitting on millions of dollars in liquidity ready to go. And yeah, we're just keep feeding them, right? So as you're thinking about doing this real estate thing, doing this the W-2 prison break, where do you think things are going to happen as far as like even people in the W-2 world and leaving that? Do you think there's going to be a shift from that to?
Yeah, I mean, COVID caused a huge shift. A lot of people were forced to leave their jobs because they were let go, and a lot of people left. They got a taste of being at home, and it's like, hey, this is kind of cool. I like being around my family.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting stat that might be staggering, but in 2021, 15,000 new businesses were started every single day. 15,000. So now, that may seem like a big number, but there's a lot of people living in this country. So I just say, why not you? It can be you. Why not you? And now out of those 15,000, I'm sure a high percentage of them are, side hustles, and those are registered companies. May not be quote unquote businesses where people have left their job, but you can do it, right? You just have to have the right mentality. I look at what I like to refer to as the 3 M's when you're talking about leaving your job, or at least getting to the point where you're trying to get to that point where you can tell your boss, hey, I'm done.
Yeah.
And those fears really all revolve around the mindset. Having the right mindset is critical. I had the wrong one for years. Money. Most people are scared about money. Like they're just too nervous about it, right? But there's ways to crush that if you align yourselves with the right people, like you and your wife, and just have a plan in place and start thinking about how you can cover that. And then the motivation, which is your why, right? If you have a strong enough why, then you can really get through anything. And again, for me, that was my son. I was missing him grow up, and I'm reminded of that every single day when I don't feel like doing it, because some days it's like, I don't feel like doing it.
So what are those 3 M's again?
Mindset, money, and motivation, which is your why.
Yeah. I think that's huge. And also the other stat that I've learned is like 80 to 85% of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And oftentimes it isn't because they didn't have a great idea or anything. It's usually money, cash flow, right? They didn't actually think through it. They didn't run the numbers and all of that stuff. And I think that's a disservice, right? In general, we just say, well, someone else will do it. And again, that's that whole take responsibility for everything, your money, your sales, getting on the phone, calling people. and stepping it up, not just saying, okay, I left my job, I'm going to go watch soap operas or something, um, because I'm an entrepreneur now. I call those entrepreneurs. They want to be an entrepreneur. They love it, but it's a difficult thing. So, what else do you want to leave people with? I know creative financing. I know with Chris Prefontaine's group, Smart Real Estate Coach, you are like the guy, besides him, I guess. But a lot of people know you in that group.
Mm-hmm.
A couple
Yep.
of other clients that I have, they would have been on live if I was doing this live.
Yeah.
But how have you gotten to being like almost the right hand person in the short time in that group?
Yeah, I would say that, and if anyone wants to learn, because I learned this from somebody else, you bring up a great point. I had mentorship, I had coaching. This is an important topic to talk about. We're all very quick to go out and buy the $40,000, $50,000 car, but we won't spend a nickel on ourselves in terms of an investment in ourselves, right? And I made the same mistake. And that's why I was in that job for 25 years, because I did all the other stupid stuff. Like I just, I purchased this lifestyle and then I got stuck instead of investing in myself and learning other ways to make money. So like I went and hired a coach, and I'll never be without one again. I have multiple mentors, and that's how you help. That's how you eliminate some of the problems you were just discussing, which was the entrepreneurs. Like they just go at their own. There's no plan. There's no one to hold them accountable. Like that's the type of stuff that you need. And I'm a big believer in it. I went without it for way too long, and it's weird how we have it all growing up, coaches, mentors, and then we get out of college, and it's like I'm good, got it all figured out now. I don't need anybody's help, which is just crazy. And so I hired a coach. He taught me how to do the business. I still work with him, and if anyone wants to learn how to at least get an introductory free course on how to get an understanding of creative financing, which everyone needs to learn how to do, just go to the link in my Instagram. There's a link tree. You can just go to the free master's class. You can watch it, and you'll at least have an understanding. It's 45 minutes. Just watch it. You'll have an understanding of how to buy with no money down, none of your own banks, which is important for a business owner to understand. And yeah, it is the free creative financing masterclass there. So that would be super helpful. Sometimes I ramble here, but how was I successful? So that, and then, because I was coachable, right? Like I think a lot of people are, I was stubborn for so long. I said, I got it all figured out. I don't need anybody's help. And I just came into this group and I said, I'm surrendering. Like these people know what they're talking about. They've been through it. Who am I to tell them anything differently? So I just did everything they were recommending.
Yep.
I showed up. I show up every single day. And then again, I had my mind in the right place. I worked on myself for a good 2 years before I did this. So I was ready mentally. And then I had the money situation handled, and I had the super strong why, which is my son and not ever wanting to get on an airplane again. Now, when I go on a plane, I bring my family with me.
I think that's awesome. And to have the being teachable and that coach thing. And I think that's why we are successful. Whenever I have other advisors or people who want to do this, our world and in this industry, it's all like being the Lone Ranger, do your own thing, set up your own deal. And I think that's good. You want to have your own like branding and all of that. But to have a good coach, mentor, guide that's cheering you on to exceed them even is huge. And I'm sure Chris is the same way. That Mark is, I've told him, I want to beat you on my quota just because, I don't know, I'm competitive. But everything I've learned is from a lot from him and from having the people that are teachable, right? And you can see the difference when they're the solo guys just trying to make it and the ones that kind of say, all right, how can I learn and not just say I know everything, which is hard as business owners and entrepreneurs because we know everything. So I want to show everybody. So go to Brian O'Neill's Instagram. This is where all of his stuff is at.
The real Brian
The real
O'Neill.
Brian
Someone
O'Neill.
was trying to steal my name, so I had to put the real in front of
The
it.
real Brian O'Neill. There you go. Now
Yeah.
you're a celebrity there.
Not quite, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, I need to do that to mine.
Mm-hmm.
So, the hard part is Brandon Neely was apparently is a bad guy in Guantanamo Bay or something. Did some crazy stuff. So that's not me. Whenever you Google me, so go here. And then he has a link tree that has all of his classes, a free creative financing masterclass, ebook. He's written an ebook and all kinds of other tools, and of course a YouTube channel, right? And then he also has the w2prisonbreak.com. This is a new podcast that's coming out or is out.
It's out. Yep, it's out. Mark was on episode 2. It's a brand new show, and we're giving people the tools to prepare themselves mentally before they start even thinking about leaving their job, because that's super critical.
Yeah, I think when we left our job, we didn't just leave it. Actually, when we left our W-2 to start the coffee shop, I actually had a mentor who was the CEO of the company. I asked him lots of questions, and he knew where I was going and that I was doing this as a side thing. But I asked him a lot and said, this is where we're heading. It's not the most profitable business to get into, a coffee shop. If you guys want to do business, start something else. But I learned a lot because they did customer traffic. And so I learned a lot about that, asked them about cash flow, those kind of things. And I didn't just leave my job either. I worked really well. And then when I felt it was time and I couldn't do both was when I left, and I gave a 2 weeks notice. I didn't just quit. And I was told, if you ever want to come back, the door is still open. I burned the bridge, but you want to end well when you do that, because you never know where that goes, and learn from those guys. Well, Brian, thanks for being here. I'm really excited for your progress. I'm glad that we got to meet through Chris's group. Any way I can continue to serve you guys, that's what I want to do. Sorry, I had a cold today, but I'm super excited. I know that there's going to be so much creative financing that's going to be needed in this coming market. And we have to break ourselves from the banks and from the W-2 and create the world and life we want. Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say, number one, thanks for having me. I appreciate all you've done for me and my family. I can't say enough about that. And, just closing thoughts is, there's so many of them, but I think just give yourself a little bit of grace. I think we're all hard on ourselves sometimes. And I read a quote this morning. I can't remember who it was from, and I actually shared it on my Instagram, and it was just, just give yourself a little bit of grace. It's gonna be okay. Like, just try not to take everything so seriously.
Yeah. I think that's what they say, don't compare yourself to other people, just yourself yesterday, right? And so
that's right.
How to get better every day, and knowing like, hey, what kind of wealth do you want? And maybe I'm not the best agent, biggest agent, whatever, financially, who knows? But I know that we have grown in so much. We have served so many people and helped them. And that's, for me, the goal and the power. So thank you for helping people break through to a smart, stable financial future. That's what we love. And I love that I was a part of your story. So thanks, guys, for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. So thanks again for being here, and we will see you next time.